Assalamu alaikum students. Now today we are going to do the one-dimensional heat equation with Newman boundary conditions. So today's topic is one-dimensional heat equation with Newman type boundary condition. If you remember that when we studied the types of boundary condition, the Newman boundary conditions falls on the category when the rate of change or flux is defined at the ends of the temperature instead of the constant value or the function of time, we have the flux. So the question is given in the form where the range is given as for all t greater than 0 Now here we see that this is the same heat equation we have solved earlier, but if we see the boundary conditions are given in the form of derivative. So we have a subscript in x and we have a subscript x here with u, which means that it is typed in the form u upon dava x. So this is the same. However, we are just solving the spatial type of Newman boundary conditions, in which for the sake of simplicity, to make these boundary conditions homogeneous, we have taken that the rate of change or the flux of the temperature is 0. This is also called the Newman boundary condition of a spatial type, that is insulated ends. So this is the spatial case of Newman boundary conditions, which we call the insulated ends. Because if there is no change at the ends, then this equation, the boundary conditions are equal to 0 only in that case. So we also called it insulated ends, because if we do not fix the temperature as we do not fix the rate of change at 0, which means that there is no rate of change, there is no change in flux at the ends, then, and if we have some non-zero value, then these boundary conditions will become the non-homogeneous and it will complex the situation. So for the Newman boundary condition, we are solving the simplest case and we call it the insulated ends. So we start our solution. By method of separation of variable, we say that our solution is, which is function of two independent variable, is the product of two independent variable. These two are independent of each other and we call it equation number 2. We call the heat equation as equation number 1. We take the derivative with respect to x twice and we get uxx as x double prime. We call it equation A. We take derivative with respect to time once and we get the equation T of t. We call it equation B, and putting A and B in equation 1, which is the heat equation, we have some kind of situation like this. Now we can separate the variables. We bring x on one side, we bring the t on other side, and by the statement that two independent ratios are equal to each other only if they are equal to some constant, we get lambda here. Because of this lambda, we get two equations. Equation number 3, and t dash is equal to lambda t, which is equation number 4. So the whole procedure is just same as with the Dirichlet boundary condition when we solve one-dimensional heat equation. Now again we are going to solve the equation 3 first, and in order to put the boundary conditions, we have to make the new boundary conditions, and this is the step where the question changes due to the derivative given as the boundary condition. So far all the things are same. Now we need the new boundary conditions. We have the old boundary conditions in the form of derivative. So these are the old boundary conditions. To get the new boundary conditions, we take our equation number 2, we consider equation number 2, which was our proposed solution like we did in the previous questions. Our proposed solution is ux of t is equal to x of x and t of t. However, since we have boundary conditions in derivative form, but the proposed solution is not in the derivative form, so in order to make it suitable for the derivatives, we take the derivative of the solution, taking derivative of equation 2 with respect to x, so when we differentiate it with respect to x, this will become ux xt is equal to x prime of x, because t is considered as constant. Now we can apply boundary conditions situation here. So when we apply first boundary condition to get the new first boundary condition, then we put 0 in place of x, so ux0 of t is equal to x prime of 0 and t of t, and this ux0 of t is equal to 0. Here we have situation that product of two members is 0, and like the previous questions we cannot put the t as 0, so we say that x dash of 0 is equal to 0. Now by the same argument, when we have ux, x of t is equal to x prime of x, p of t, like I wrote it same like this. When we apply second boundary condition, in which we replace x with L, so we have x prime of L, t of t is equal to 0. By the same argument, we say that x prime of L is equal to 0. So this is our new second boundary condition. So this is our first new boundary condition. This is our second new boundary condition. So we have the new boundary conditions. We write it here. New BC is x prime of 0 is equal to 0. X prime of L is equal to 0. These are the boundary conditions in which there is no involvement of t. Now taking equation number 3. Which was x double prime minus lambda x is equal to 0, and the boundary conditions we have got are this. So this equation depends on the value of lambda. For all three cases of lambda has solution of the form ax plus b if lambda is equal to 0 would be a exponential kx plus b exponential minus kx when lambda is greater than 0 or lambda is equal to positive k square. So if k square is positive, which means that lambda is also positive, and for the positive value of lambda, the solution that satisfies this differential equation would be in the exponential form. And for the third case, when lambda is less than 0, we take lambda is equal to minus k square, then the solution would be like cos and sine. Now we see one by one all three cases. For example, case number 1 is when lambda is equal to 0. When lambda is equal to 0, then the solution will take the form ax plus b. We cannot apply boundary condition in this solution because the boundary condition is in the derivative form. So we have to first take the derivative of this solution. So if we take the derivative of the solution, then x of x will become x prime of x, and a as a constant will come out of the derivative. So derivative of x will be 1. So we are a plus 0. Derivative of the constant is 0. When we try to apply the boundary condition, here we do not have any x part here. That's why we cannot apply these boundary conditions in this solution. So we cannot use this solution anymore. Now we check case number 2, for which lambda is greater than 0. So this becomes the case number 2. Lambda is greater than 0 or lambda is equal to k square. In that case, the general solution will become a exponential kx plus b exponential minus kx. We cannot apply the boundary condition in this solution. We have to take the derivative of the solution. So the first derivative with respect to x makes the general solution as a exponential kx dot k plus b exponential minus kx into minus k. we can rearrange it. A k exponential kx minus b k exponential minus kx. Now we can apply the boundary conditions. So when we apply the first boundary condition, which is x dash of 0 is equal to a k exponential k into 0 minus b k exponential minus k into 0, and this x dash of 0 is equal to 0. So here we have a k minus b k is equal to 0. If we take the k common and divide both sides by k, then we have a minus b is equal to 0, implies that b is equal to a, or a is equal to b. Now we can apply second boundary condition in the general solution, derivative of the general solution. So and here we apply the second boundary condition. When we apply second boundary condition, it will be x dash of L. So we will place L in place of x. So it become a k exponential kl minus b k exponential minus kl, and this x dash of L is equal to 0. However, we have found that b is equal to a, or a is equal to b, so we can replace b with a and take it common with k. So we have kl minus exponential minus kl is equal to 0. We divide both sides by k and we will remaining with a exponential kl minus 1 upon exponential kl is equal to 0. Remember that we have already found that b is equal to a. So whatever a is, b would be the same. Now here we have a situation that the product of two terms is 0. Either a is equal to 0 or the bracket term would be the 0. So by the argument that we have chosen k as positive and L is the length of the rod, therefore it is the non-negative, and here we have the same term in the fraction in denominator, so 1 upon anything here would be the fraction form will be the less than this positive term. So if we subtract something which is less than this one, the bracket term will remain the positive, which means that the bracket term cannot be taken as 0. Therefore a would be 0. We have no choice. So a is equal to 0. And if a is equal to 0 and b is equal to a, which means that a and b both are 0, this means that this solution is a trivial solution. And we are looking for the non-trivial solutions. Therefore, we will check the third case in which lambda is less than 0 or lambda is equal to minus k square. So let me remove first two solutions and we will work on the solution for lambda is less than 0, lambda is equal to minus k square. So for case 3, where lambda is less than 0 or is equal to minus k square, the solution would become a cos kx plus b sin kx. We cannot apply the boundary condition in this solution because the boundary condition are in the derivative form, so we have to take the derivative of the general solution. And when we take the derivative of general solution, then a would be constant, so it will come outside. So cos x would be minus sin x sin kx and then k plus b, derivative of the sin kx would be cos kx and then k. So it would become minus a k sin kx plus b k cos kx. Now we can apply the boundary conditions. So we apply first boundary condition in the general solution. So x dash of 0 would be minus a k sine. So we place 0 in place of x plus b k cos k into 0, and this x dash of 0 by the boundary condition will be equal to 0. So we see that due to this sine 0, this whole portion would become 0 plus b k cos 0 is 1, so it will become 0, and this implies that b is equal to 0. Now we apply second boundary condition to find the second coefficient, which is a. So we apply second boundary condition in this solution. Which is x dash of L is equal to minus a k sine k into L plus, however we have seen that b is equal to 0, so the whole term would become 0, and then this x dash of L is equal to 0 by the boundary condition. We have to remember that b is equal to 0, b is already 0. Now by simplifying this one, we have seen that a sine kl is equal to 0. Here we have a situation that product of two terms a and sine kl is 0, but we have seen that we have already got b is equal to 0, and if we also get a is equal to 0, then a and b both will be 0 and we will get a trivial solution, and now we have no case left to check. Therefore, forcefully we are going to say that a cannot be 0. We will save a, and when we save a, then we have to say that sine kl must be 0. Sine kl is equal to 0. In order to justify this statement that sine kl is equal to 0, we must equal kl to n pi. So sine kl can be 0 in the case if this kl is equal to pi, 2 pi, 3 pi, 4 pi, or generally n pi. Only in that case this term would be 0. So if kl is equal to n pi, which means that k is equal to n pi upon l. And if lambda, we say that lambda is equal to minus k square, means that lambda is equal to minus n square pi square upon l square. So our general solution is this one, and we have the value of k b is 0, so solution would be reduced to only this term. Now if we put x of x is equal to a cos, and we know the value of k, where here I must mention that n is equal to 1, 2, 3, so on. So it would be n pi upon L x, where n is equal to 1, 2, 3 and so on. Now since there are several cos terms here and each cos term must have its own coefficients, therefore for n cos terms we have the n coefficients. Since there are multiple solutions, n solutions or infinite solutions, so we have to put subscript n here as well to show that these are the multiple solutions. So by this method we have found the solution for the equation number 3 and we call it as C. Now we can take equation number 4, which is the T equation. So we write our result here, x n of x is equal to a n cos kx. Now we take equation number 4, which is t dash is equal to this is t dash lambda t. Now the solution for this first order differential equation is t of t is equal to some constant c exponential lambda t, and when we replace lambda we have the value of lambda c exponential minus n square pi square upon L square into t, where n is equal to 1, 2, 3 and so on. Since there are n exponential terms here and each exponential term will have its own coefficients, so we have to put n with the c as a subscript, and since they are infinite solutions because of the n, so this is also the represent the infinite solutions. We have called this one as equation number C, so we call this one as equation number D, and if you remember that our assumed solution, which was equation number 2, was uxt is equal to x of x p of t, which means that assumed solutions require the solution of x or equation 3 solution and the solution of equation number 4. We have got both of them and we can put C and D in equation number 2. So when we continue this next step from the fresh board. So putting C and D in equation number 4 will get us uxt is equal to an cos n pi upon L x exponential cn exponential minus n square pi square upon L square t. Since these are the infinite solutions, so in order to represent this as a solution, we put subscript n here. However, the requirement for the solution for equation 2 was it was a single solution. It was not infinite solutions. So first we combine the coefficients an and cn as dn cos n pi upon L x exponential minus n square pi square upon L square t. Then we use the principle of superposition. This principle says that sum of all solutions is also a solution. So to make this solution as a single solution corresponding to the equation 2, we have to sum all of these solutions. This is d1 cos pi x upon L exponential minus pi square upon L square t, then plus d2. So we can sum all of them by putting the summation sign. N is equal to 1 to infinity dn cos n pi upon L x exponential minus n square pi square upon L square into t, and this is now become the single solutions. That's why we remove the we remove the subscript and write it like this. Now this is the general solution. Finally we have got the general solution for the one-dimensional heat equation with Newman type boundary conditions. So this is called the general solution. Now we are going to find the particular solution. For this we use the initial condition in the general solution. So our general solution was uxt is equal to summation n is equal to 1 to infinity dn cos n pi upon L x exponential minus n square pi square upon L square t. We call it equation number 4. Applying the given initial condition in equation 4, it becomes ux0 because t is equal to 0 for the initial condition, n is equal to 1 to infinity dn cos n pi upon Lx, and this exponential would become 1 when t is equal to 0, and this whole ux0 is hx, which is the piecewise defined function. We are not going to put the value here right now. So what we are going to do, we need to find the value of the coefficient. So by using the orthogonality relationship, we have dn (0 to L) cos n pi upon Lx cos m pi upon Lx dx is equal to 0 to L cos m pi upon L x and h of x dx. Now we know that this is the integral which is solved when we expand the summation. Then only for the values m is equal to n, this integral has the answer half of the limit L by 2, and rest of the integral would be 0. We have done this before in previous questions, so I am not going to do it again. And from here we know that we have the value of coefficient as 2 by L 0 to L cos n pi upon L x h of x. So we call it equation number 5. So putting the value of h of x in equation 5, we got dn is equal to 2 by L 0 to L x into L minus x, because h of x would be equal to x into L minus x, and cos n pi upon L x dx further simplified, this will become 2 of L x cos n pi upon L x minus Lx cos x L, and here we have x square cos n pi upon L x dx. So we have two integral to solve. One is x cos n pi upon Lx, because L will be constant and will taken outside of the integral, and here we have x square cos n pi upon Lx. So we can write it 2 by L or we can write it like 0 to L x cos n pi upon L x minus 2 by L x square cos n pi upon L x dx. So we call it I1 and we call it I2. So what we have situation is dn is equal to 2 I1 minus 2 upon L I2. So we have to find the I1 and I2 and we put the values in the dn, and then we put this dn in the equation number 4. So we find dn and we'll put it in equation 4. That was our general solution. That will become the particular solution. So I1 would be 0 to L x cos n pi upon Lx dx, and we can solve it like x integral of cos n pi upon L x dx minus 0 to L cos n pi upon L x dx into d upon dx of x dx, which is equal to x sine n pi upon L x n pi upon L 0 to L minus 0 to L, the integral of bracket term, this will becomes 1, and the integral of cos is again the sine n pi upon L, n pi upon L x dx. So we can take out the constant, which is x L upon n pi sine n pi upon L x. We did not put the limit yet, and we take this L upon n pi out of the integral. We take again the integral of this sine term. It would become cos n pi upon L, n pi upon L, 0 to L. Now when we apply limit here, it will become, first apply the upper limit minus lower limit, then it will, the x will become L, and we have L upon n pi and sine n pi L upon L minus 0 into L upon n pi sine n pi into 0 over L. And here we have minus this constant term coming out of the limit, so it will become L square upon n square pi square. Then we apply the limit, upper limit minus lower limit, it will become cos n pi L upon L minus cos n pi 0 upon L. So here we can see that when we cancel out this L, it will remaining as sine n pi, and sine n pi is always the 0. So this whole portion becomes 0. This one, because multiplying by 0 or sine 0 is 0, then it will again the whole term 0. Here when we cancel out this thing, we remain with the cos n pi, and here we have cos 0. So cos n pi can be written as minus 1 raised to the power n. Cos 0 would be written as 1 only. When we have took the integral of this sine term, so it would become the minus cos. So this minus minus becomes the plus here. Now what we have remaining with the I1 value, I1 is now L square upon n square pi square into minus 1 raised to the power n minus 1. So this is the value for the I1. Now we solve for the I2. So for I2, is equal to 0 to L x square cos n pi upon L x dx. So when we start integrating it, it will become x square 0 to L cos n pi upon L x dx minus cos n pi upon L x dx into d upon dx of x square dx. So this portion will be sorted out easily when we take the integral of this cos n pi upon L. It will become sin n pi upon L x n pi upon L 0 to L minus integration at this side would lead us to sin n pi upon L n pi upon L in the denominator, and then the derivative of x square is 2x and then dx. So when we see the situation here, it becomes x square L upon n pi, and we remain with the sin n pi upon L x 0 to L. Now when we see the situation here, we see that when we apply the upper limit and lower limit, then when we apply the upper limit for this sine term, L and L will cancel each out and sin n pi is 0 as we did in the previous integral I1, and when we put 0 here, then the square of the 0 multiplied by whole term or 0 here will make the whole term 0. So this whole portion will become 0 when we apply the upper limit and lower limit. So we are remaining with this term. We take out the constant minus 2 upon L upon n pi sin n pi upon L x dx. So final situation for the I2 is there. We continue this question. For the value of I2 will become minus 2 upon n pi 0 to L sin n pi upon L x dx. And there was an x as well here because it was 2x. So minus 2L upon n pi sin n pi upon L x minus sin n pi upon L x into v upon dx of x this time, and this one is not having a limit, so it will be only the cos n pi. we take out the constant outside and then we apply the limit here, upper limit and lower limit. So it would become L cos n pi L upon L minus 0 into cos n pi into 0 upon L and again when we take the integral of sine with the cos, we should have a minus sign here. So this whole term would become 0. Sorry, we complete this section as well. So we take this constant L upon n pi outside, and when we take the integral of this cos n pi which was remaining, then it becomes the sine n pi upon L x divided by n pi upon L 0 to L. So because of the 0, this whole term would become 0. We take this thing, so it becomes cos n pi. So the situation here is, and there was a minus sign as well here. This minus 2 upon n pi was with the whole bracket. So we have minus 2 L square upon n square pi square into minus L cos n pi. This is the remaining term, and we come here, we have L upon n pi. When we take out this constant, so this will become L square n square pi square, and when we apply the upper limit and lower limit, what we will see that it will be sine n pi L upon L, we place L in the x, minus sine n pi into 0 divided by L. So this sine n pi would become 0. This sine n pi, the whole angle would become 0, sine 0, 0, and multiply this 0 multiplied by this term would be 0, which means that this whole term would vanish. So what we are remaining with is, for the I2, minus minus plus, so we have 2L cube upon n square pi square into minus 1 raised to the power n, and here we did not write this term, and we do not write because of the 0, this whole becomes 0, so we have only remaining this term. So we have both the values for the I1 and I2. We can put it in the expression for the dn. So putting I1 and I2 for dn, so dn becomes 2 into L square upon n square pi square minus 1 raised to the power n minus 1 minus 2 upon L into I2, which was 2L cube upon n square pi square minus 1 raised to the power n. So when we further simplify it, then we will get a final expression for minus 2 L square upon n square pi square into minus 1 and minus 1. So this would become the dn. So I have omitted 3-4 steps to come at this result. So you have to open it, all these terms, and then some terms will cancel out and you will get the expression for the dn like this. Now we put this dn. Oops, I have already written this thing to get the particular solution, and the particular solution would become uxt, or equation 4 would become, by putting the value of dn, is equal to minus 2 L square upon n square pi square minus 1 n minus 1 summation n is equal to 1 to infinity cos n pi upon L x exponential minus n square pi square upon L square into t. So this is our final particular solution. We have completed this question in every respect and we found the even value of the dn.